Startup Juncture at the Dutch Parliament with Anne-Wil Lucas from the Dutch Liberal Party. Anne-Wil, thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Last fall you launched the plan StartupNL, which is intended to improve the Dutch startup ecosystem. And I was wondering, why did you decide to launch the plan?
Well, it's
it's
very important, I think, that we look at all the possibilities we have in the Netherlands to let our economy grow again. Mm-hmm. And startups do have a lot of potential, I think, for the Dutch economy. Mm-hmm. As the Netherlands, we are very good at producing scientific knowledge, but we're not very good yet at using that scientific knowledge to actually build companies and let those companies grow. We have a lot of policies, economic policies that look top-down, mm-hmm. that think like how can we use big R&D companies, how can they use that scientific knowledge, but we don't really look what these startup companies need, like bottom-up, mm-hmm. what do they encounter and how can we help them to overcome barriers so they can actually grow and help our economy grow.
Okay, so to dive in that issue, in your plan you propose, you're focusing actually on three areas. One of them is how people can start a company much more easier than right now. The other thing is that startups can grow much more easier. And the last thing is how we can attract startups from around the world to the Netherlands.
To the Netherlands, yes.
But to begin with the first 2 points, can you pinpoint or name a few measures that could help startups to start earlier and grow faster?
Yes, I think we have to start in our educational system to give entrepreneurial skills a place in our universities and also in other parts of our educational system. A lot of students don't even think about the possibility of becoming an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot to do there. Mm-hmm. That would improve or help the number of startups that actually start. But you have to make the startups grow too. So we have to look at our fiscal system. Okay. How can we make it easier for startups to grow? Like they need capital, they need to attract capital, which is the biggest problem right now. So we also look at fiscal measures to make it easier for investments, for people who want to invest in startups.
Okay, and just behind the scenes you also mentioned another measure that would make it for startups much more easier. That was also a tax measure. Can you elaborate a bit more on that point?
I think, the giving shares as part of your paycheck, getting shares of the company. We see a lot of startups use that measure. They would like to give their employees shares in the company instead of just giving them a salary. But in the Netherlands it's difficult because the way it is right now, in the same year that you get those shares, you also have to pay your income tax on those shares. Which is hard for people who only make a little bit of money next to the shares that they get. So they get into big cash flow problems. So one of the measures I propose is to actually wait for 3 years before you have to pay your income tax on those shares, or only pay your income tax when you sell your shares again.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the issues you touched upon just a few seconds ago was the point of capital.
Yeah.
I know from research that early stage funding there is quite a lot of capital in the Netherlands, and it's still difficult, and your plan is working towards that to make that much more easier. But on the other hand, there is also a problem with growth capital, so above 5 million euros. And I was wondering how your plan, because I don't think your plan really dives in that issue, how we can not only help startups in the early stage, but also in the growth phase.
Yeah. Well, I don't think as a government you can actually tell the investment companies that they have to come to the Netherlands and invest here. That's not into our power. The only thing we can do is make sure we have so many good startups that have potential to actually grow, that the investors who are now in Silicon Valley would actually like to come to the Netherlands and invest here. So I think if you really improve the ecosystem and improve the quality of the startups, the investors will come. But we cannot force them to come, but so we have to seduce them to come.
Yeah, it seems like you're focusing a lot, or is that your intention? That's actually the question, to attract foreign capital to the Netherlands, or Because I know, as a matter of fact, that there is quite a lot of capital in the Netherlands, but it's not invested in startups.
Yeah, I think both. I mean, I think you need the foreign capital, but also have to use all the capital that is in the Netherlands and make them want to invest in startups. What we're doing in my plan is proposing more crowdfunding, more credit unions. So a lot of people are used, a lot of entrepreneurs are used in the Netherlands to just go to the bank, and that's the only place where you can get financing for your business. So I think we have to show them that there are a lot more possibilities, but also we have to increase the number of informal investors, private people who want to invest in companies, and I think we can do that to do a tax release for people who would like to invest in startup companies.
Okay, great. You just touched upon the issue of credit unions. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
I think it's very important that we have a very diverse landscape of financial people who can finance businesses, and credit unions are one. The Minister of Economic Affairs has already said to the Parliament that he will see what he can do to actually improve the credit unions.
We were just talking about attracting foreign capital to the Netherlands, investment capital, but in your plan you also talk about attracting foreign startups to the Netherlands. And I was wondering what you could do more apart from the startup visa, which is one of the measures you mentioned in the plan.
I think it's very important to actually attract startups to the Netherlands. There's a lot of international competition going on between countries to become a startup nation. I think the Netherlands would make a perfect port to Europe for a lot of startups. So we would like them to come here. Another thing we'd like to do is use our ambassadors network. All the Dutch embassies in other foreign countries, they can go on the lookout for promising startups that they think should really come to the Netherlands because here's a good market for them. We see it in Greece. They already have an incubator inside the embassy. Which is a very beautiful plan.
The Dutch ambassador.
It's the Dutch ambassador. Orange Grove, and I think that should really be an example for a lot of other embassies. So I think there's still a lot to do there. A simple measure that we could also take is make like one website for all the startups from outside the Netherlands who'd like to have more information about our startup ecosystem, that they can find that information. We have a lot of incubators. We have a lot of startup bootcamp kind of programs. All the different universities have their own incubator or program in entrepreneurship, and I think it's very important that we show the startups from outside the Netherlands what we have and where they could fit.
Okay, great. Yeah. The other question I had is Nelly Cruz, your party member. She's already called the startup mom since.
I'm her niece.
You're a niece, so you're the startup niece.
Yeah, that's me.
That's something to remember. I was quite intrigued and interested by this point is that you have Nelly Cruz. You launched the plan, and the Prime Minister Mark Rutte, also a party member. He just opened the startup campus of Erasmus University, and I was wondering, is that a renewed interest from your party in entrepreneurship and startups, or is it just lip service?
I think, and the entrepreneurs are in the genes of our party, so it's not a renewed interest. I think we always had that interest. What we do see now is that we really need jobs. I think that's very important for the Netherlands. Our unemployment is rising, and we see that startups really make up for a lot of jobs. 60% of the job growth comes from countries that didn't exist 5 years ago. So I think it's only normal that we are focusing on those companies that can bring growth and also job growth to the Netherlands. And of course it's not lip service. If I wanted to do lip service, I would have just said we really need to improve the ecosystem.
No, I'm asking that because there is quite a lot of critique from entrepreneurs in the Netherlands on the current current government of Mark Rutte, that they are not doing enough for entrepreneurs. So that's the reason.
Well, of course, I think it's economic, and we're in economic very difficult times, and I think we are doing as a government what we can to make sure we get our finances back in order, so they don't lay as a burden on the entrepreneurs in the Netherlands. But of course, it's a difficult time also for them. would like to do more, and we will do more, but first we have to get our finances in order. That's our first priority right now.
So you have to make a trade-off. That's.
I'm not sure if it's a trade-off, but I think that's our responsibility to get the government's finances back in order. That's what we are doing, and at the same time, we would like to take all the measures we can to make them grow. But we can't do it by spending more money than we have as a government.
Last point, you launched the plan last fall, and I was wondering, when will we see the tangible results? Maybe the measures turned into rules, regulations, or legislation, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when will we see results?
Well, what I did in the fall is take 43, what did you call it again? You had such a beautiful word for it.
The measures. Actionable measures. Actionable measures. Yeah.
We took 43 actionable measures, so it wouldn't take too long for the Minister of Economic Affairs to be able to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. So I expect within a week or 2 weeks to actually have a letter from the Minister of Economic Affairs, which tells us what about the 43 proposals he's actually going to make happen.
Anne-Wil Lucas, it was a pleasure to have you with us. I look forward to the tangible results of your plan, and I hope we can talk in the future about the next plans you have.
Okay, thank you very much.